Hey everyone, Chris Haddon, Bearded Jason, here with the REI 360 show from REI360.net and hardmoneybankers.com. Here with a great show.
We're going to go over the entrepreneur blueprint and what we feel are probably the 6 most important things to consider before starting any business and going out on your own and becoming an entrepreneur. Check it out right now.
Today we're talking about the entrepreneur blueprint, and before we get started, just a couple quick housekeeping items. First, if you ever want to check us out, please do so at facebook.com/hardmoneybankers, and feel free to search on any social media hashtag the REI360 show to see this and many other episodes of what we put together. Something else, don't let the title throw you off. Whether or not you call yourself an entrepreneur, don't let that word disqualify you from what we're about to talk about. This is anyone who wants to either start or grow a business of any kind. Like, you could be in real estate, you could be in tech, you could be a lawyer. So don't let that thing throw you off. We think it's the best title for what we're talking about today, but don't let that word scare you, because I know it does. All right. This topic has come up a number of times in different forms, and one of them was recently, actually just yesterday and earlier this week. And what we were talking about is people shouldn't, and definitely don't need to, think that there's not a blueprint for starting or growing a business, that there's not a bunch of common denominators among successful people. And definitely don't think that you're different and it doesn't apply to you, and that a lot of people do that naturally. You know what I'm saying? They always say, as soon as, if you're talking about getting a coach or getting your goals on paper, no, I don't need to do that.
It doesn't apply to me, or it doesn't apply to my business.
Right.
I'm in a unique business, and that's BS.
Let's get that out of the way right now. You're not different than every other successful entrepreneur. And if you want to be different, that's a mistake. Okay? So let's get that clear right now. All of this stuff applies to you, and you should do it, even if you don't want to. A lot of it's weird, a lot of it's uncomfortable and new. That's the point of everything we're talking about today.
Yeah. I mean, these are it's a proven blueprint. We didn't make them up. We've just, became smart enough to follow them, to follow what exactly is working. So let's start with what the first one is. And that's, reading, learning, understanding kind of a lot about business, the trade that you're currently in, the market niche that you're in, and really just grasping as much knowledge as you can related to that.
Yeah, and it all starts with the foundation of entrepreneurship and success stuff. Everyone reads the same stuff. Everybody, for years. People are reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. People are reading 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, more recent, of course. People are reading the Gary Vee books. And
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The ones that go back years and years.
Exactly.
Everyone's reading the same stuff, so don't think that it doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
Because it does.
And the thing is I also wouldn't say, well, just tell me what the book's about because I don't want to read it. And I will promise you, because I'm not the biggest reader in the world, that what I get out of that book is different than what Chris got out of that book, and will be different than what you get out of that book.
True.
So you're going
to actually read it or listen to it. Audiobooks are totally
fun. I also strongly recommend, which we do regularly, is reread books when you're down the road, because what I got out of the E-Myth when we started our business in 2007 was completely different than what I got out of it at 2010.
Great point.
And then last year when I reread it again, it changed because, particularly, not to go into detail about that book, you'll find out yourself if you haven't read it, but we were technicians and operators then we turned into managers, then we turned into visionaries, and the book affected me very, very differently throughout that. Yep. So recommend reading, as well as, typically when you get started, you don't think of general business, you think more of niche business. So in real estate, it's I want to learn about real estate, and I want to learn about commercial real estate, and I want to learn about this strategy.
Do that too, but start with the staples. Start with the ones that everyone reads.
Sure.
And there's very easy ways to find lists of what other people recommend so that you don't have to build your own. Yannick Silver is a good one. Just Google Yannick Silver's book reading list. Tim Ferriss too has put out a blog post on his entrepreneur reading list. Just go follow one and work your way through it.
Exactly.
Oh, the whiteboard. Yeah.
The whiteboardbook.com.
Right. Yeah. Check out our
bestseller.
All right.
Okay.
So reading and learning, without a doubt, that's the fundamentals, and it continues all the way through. Each one of these things is not a step-by-step list. Every one of these things continues throughout the entire process. Not one of these has stopped for us.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
All right. What's next?
So that leads us to the next one: creating goals. So create a goal about reading. Maybe read a book a month or a book a quarter, whatever that case is. Okay. So goals, and not just goals that are up here, because everybody has goals up here and they're fake goals. Goals on paper, either a business plan, You know, and we're not huge advocates of like overanalyzing a crazy 100-page business plan that you never reference again. You're just wasting time doing it. But some sort of business plan, some sort of goal, something that's measurable, and then something that you can just, even if it's just kind of jotting down notes to start with, before you even make sense of them, put everything on paper.
Yep.
And then as you get a little bit more advanced, you'll actually, you know, put them on paper and then kind of work your way back into what exactly do I need to do today to get me where I want to be down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that can come later on, your 10-year, 5-year, whatever plan, but like just get something on paper ASAP.
Yeah, so, you know, something that, you know, you can accomplish, something that you can accomplish on paper immediately. And, you know, we have 100 different shows, teens of different shows, not hundreds, but multiple different shows and topics that we've talked about related to, you know, proper ways to write, you know, putting goals on paper. So we can talk about that later. Okay, another one, getting a mentor or a coach. Kind of along the way. At the beginning, when you're just starting out, you probably just need some sort of mentor or someone that you can talk to.
Anyone who's successful.
Fair enough.
That is willing, that likes you and is willing to give you advice. It can be a relative, it can be a neighbor, it can be a professor or a boss, or like before you don't necessarily have to hire a business coach, even though there are plenty of great ones out there and they're not terribly expensive, many of them. That's something that I would do right away, and actually listen to what the successful person says. There's a reason why they're successful.
Yeah.
This came up recently also, where I was chatting with a friend of mine who is a young guy and very successful, has been since his 20s. And he was giving some advice to a young and up-and-coming artist that we're friends with on building his business. And the artist said straight up to the successful guy, they're like, yeah, I don't like that advice, I'm not going to take it. And we just kind of like shrugged our shoulders and chuckled. It's like,
okay.
You're doing yourself a disservice not taking advice from successful people. It is a silly thing. Put your ego away and just do what successful people say.
Yeah.
Not 100% of every single thing they say, but if they give you one important piece of advice, don't turn down their one piece of advice.
Exactly.
That's a mistake.
Good point.
Yeah.
So mentor and coach, very important. You know, as we've grown in our business, you know, we've had standing coaches. You have mentors kind of for individual things, and we have coaches for a particular thing that either work on, you know, niche specific things. You know, we've hired coaches for anywhere between, you know, internet marketing to higher end types of real estate transactions.
Yep.
Down
we have some more of that stuff coming up.
Down to just, you know, general business. You know, our most recent coach doesn't know anything about real estate, and we don't want him to know anything about real estate. He doesn't need to.
No.
You know, we talk about general, you know, principles, management, things like that. So make sure you get some sort of coach or at least some sort of mentor that can help you guide the way. They'll make it a heck of a lot easier than you trying to stumble through it yourself.
100%. All right, up next. And this is a big one. This concept's a big one. Prepare to change mentally. Prepare to change as a person going through this process. In order for you to go from wherever you are now to having something large and successful, whether it's a business or whatever, you know, your goal is, you're going to need to change along with that. Your business is going to become whatever you are. And the better you get, the better your business is. Got it? Like, let's not think that, oh, I'm just going to stay me and it's going to grow on its own. It's not on its own, it's you.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to change and evolve for sure. And we've seen people along the way, partners and associates, what have you, that were not willing to change as a person, that were not willing to develop mentally in order to make all this stuff happen. And it did not work for them.
That's
We've
right.
seen it. And if, I mean, look, just be honest with yourself. I mean, if you're just cool exactly where you are and doing what you're doing, do your thing.
Yeah, don't change it.
Yeah, but if you're trying to make something happen, you have to change with it. It is just an extension of you.
Yeah, I would probably argue that being mentally capable and, you know, the word mental is probably the strongest word as to be an entrepreneur for anything. Like, it needs to be up here. Like, there's, you know,
none of the rest of it can happen.
There's going to be something that in your head you're going to see that's going to be completely different, and you need to you know, you need to adapt to that, and, you know, you need to mentally prepare. And I mean, there's so many things that, you know, we're looking to do in the future that if we're not mentally ready to do it, it is not going to happen.
Oh yeah, like the 2010 me is not near what I am in 2015, and I expect to be 5 years better and significantly better in 2020. Because what I want to do at that point is bigger, higher level, bigger, better stuff, because that's, you know, that's the mission that we're on. And so I know that I need to be there. I know it's not going to go there on its own.
Yep. Got it. Okay. Number 6, and again, none of these are in any particular order. They're all important, and they all, you know, are all over the place. So
and number 5.
Number 6.
Really? We're not on constant beta?
We're on constant beta.
Number 5. Maybe we should do a list too. Maybe we should get some kind of list worked into. You want to do constant beta or should I?
Go ahead.
All right.
I was all excited about the 6th one.
Oh, were you skipping that one? Oh, that's my bad. But it was there, so we should touch on it.
Go ahead.
All right, constant beta mode is a term that I borrowed from an article I read a long time ago. And what that means is you and your business are in a constant state of evolution. Your business doesn't get to a point and you say, all right, we're there. Because that's when everything stops. And if you stop, as you know, people will start to catch up to you and you're actually not standing still, you're moving backwards. So the idea of being in constant beta and knowing that so many different aspects need to evolve, like technology is changing, like your company itself is your employees, and like everything's always in a constant state of motion. So be prepared for that. Don't think like, all right, we're doing it, we're there, because it's just not the way it works. Even though it is kind of mentally challenging to think that like this is never going to stop evolving. Like it's a little taxing to come to that realization, but it's important because it's the case.
Things change. You need to make sure you're a part of it, and that kind of does lead to this last one, anyways, related to staying hyper focused.
Because it's kind of
because you want to stay hyper focused on exactly what is working, but at the same time you need to have understanding that things change and you need to evolve as they're changing.
That is number 6.
Without taking away from your core competencies and your core business and stuff like that. So the reason that I relate a lot to stay hyper-focused is, I fall in the trap of, what a lot of entrepreneurs, entrepreneur ADD, where, they want to chase the next thing because they're excited about it. And, startup time's exciting. And I can honestly say that I did that probably until about 2010, 3 or so years into our business, when I realized, wow, we have such a good thing going right now. Why the heck would I defer from that? We have a good thing going, we're growing, we're hiring, we're profitable, we're in a really good spot. Like, I understand that there's other things out there and other things that we can expand into other things and grow, but like, it's really important to stay so hyper-focused on exactly what is working, especially if something's working now, because as soon as you start spending time and resources on other things, these things over here sometimes lack, and all of a sudden they're not as good as they were. So, the goal is...
It's a lot of discipline.
Yeah, the goal is to get everything in place in the core business, or exactly focused, laser sharp focus on exactly what you're doing. And if you want to expand in other things, make sure you can figure out a way to automate, or keep everything under control over here so that doesn't change. Because if it's not broken, you can't fix it.
Yep. All right. So a little recap on what we just went over, the 6 things. Number 1, get your reading/learning list together. Doesn't have to be reading necessarily, it can be audio, whatever. Number 2, get your goals on paper of some sort, on Evernote, on whatever, maybe on actual paper, your business plan down right away. Get a mentor or coach ASAP. That can be anybody, from a neighbor, anyone successful really. Doesn't have to be like an expensive paid executive coach. Prepare to change mentally. Number 4, possibly the most important. Number 5, you're going to be in constant beta mode. You and your business in a constant state of evolution, so you're going to need to get used to that. And 6, very important, like Jason said, the staying hyper-focused on what works as you're growing. Don't forget that. Don't forget your wheelhouse. That's our entrepreneur blueprint. I think it's a pretty good one. We're going to have to turn this into some kind of ebook or something too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We should. Cool. Until next time, guys, we appreciate it, and more awesome videos coming soon. Thanks again.